Does gear matter for photography? Does gear matter for photography? Does gear matter for photography? We all have to start somewhere. Well, where are you going to start? With a camera. Any camera. That is a great place to begin. It's probably a cheap camera because let's be honest, photography is expensive. Even at a beginner level, you're talking like $500 for the body and $300 for the lens. Are you kidding me? It adds up. That's like a month's rent if you're trying to be an adult. And if you're in high school, that's an inconceivable amount of cash. Do you know how many hours it takes working at Panera to make $800? Many. But does gear even matter? Well, like any normal human being, I went to the internet to find out. Next stop, Twitter. I asked a similar but not quite the same question, and that question was, why do you think that so many photographers say that gear doesn't matter? And the answers were all over the board. Dish, dish, everything. So let's check in with a few of these. Allison Coletta said, better gear doesn't mean better photographer. Having better gear just makes certain photo situations easier, like how having a higher end DSLR will handle high ISO better than an entry-level one, but it doesn't mean you'll create a better photo because of it. On the other hand, Tim Kamen said, but real talk, gear matters. Alternatively, Bump Opera says, have you ever had an amazing meal? You would never say, damn, that was amazing. What kind of stove and pans do you use? And Nico Ford said, story wins no matter what. This isn't a black or white issue, it's gray. So that means it's somewhere in the middle. My good friend Josiah Van Dien even chimed in with his thoughts. I took this on a used Canon Coolpix I got on eBay for $50. Gear doesn't really matter. Well, Josiah, if gear doesn't matter, then why are you telling me about your gear? But no, I get it, Josiah. When we say matter, what we're referring to is it more advantageous to have better gear than to not? And if so, how? But before we get to answering it, I want to tell you why I, a professional photographer, say that gear does not matter. I say it because I feel that we, you and I, as photographers, have a lot of things to work on to be better photographers. And you know what? Most of those things, if not all of them, do not depend on what gear we have. I would hate for you or anybody else to feel deterred from getting better as a photographer, continuing their passion, or shooting more often just because somebody told them, hey, your gear's not good enough, or your lens isn't sharp enough, or your camera is too small, too old, or weak. You know what? Those people. So regardless of what camera you have, regardless of what lens you have, maybe it's even just an iPhone or a $50 Coolpix camera from eBay. Regardless of what you have, there are plenty of ways you can become a better photographer. That is why I say gear does not matter. For example, you can work on your composition. You know, framing your subject. Really good joke, man. It's a really good joke. You can spend time learning your camera. So, tell me about yourself. You can just work on your overall speed. You know, how fast can you adjust those settings? How fast can you change your aperture, your shutter speed? You can work on making new contacts, networking, photographing new clients. What up, Jade? Want to do a photo shoot? You also have things like post-processing, file management. It's really endless. There's so many things you can work on without having a good camera. So, just start shooting. Don't worry about your gear. It doesn't matter, and don't listen to people who tell you otherwise. Now that we figured out when it does not matter, when the heck does it matter? Well, I'll tell you. Gear matters when you start noticing areas of your skill set that you need to improve that are out of your control. We're not talking about composition or any skill that you can get better at by just shooting more. We're talking about things like focus speed, sensor quality, low light capabilities, and frames per second. You can't get better at those by shooting more. You just can't. You have to upgrade your camera. And you know what? Coincidentally enough, they're all things you need if you want to be a concert photographer. So if the rule gear doesn't matter applied to most types of photography, we're talking almost all of them, concert photography would be the one exception. However, we're talking at a professional level. So that means just people who are doing this for a living. Now don't get me wrong, there are definitely people out there doing this with Canon T3Is, and you know what? They're doing a great job. It's just a lot more difficult to do than using a top-of-the-line camera. That is why I have an incredibly fast camera. I use the Sony a7 III, and I also use lenses that go very wide, so they'll go to 1.4, 1.8, something like that, to let a lot of light in. These are very good tools, especially for my job, but remember, I've been doing this for 15 years. It's taken me a long time to collect this gear. But my clients rely on me to get fast moments that happen for just a little bit of time and need to capture them without failure. And most importantly, they kind of got to be in focus. Well, mostly in focus. Sometimes they're, not so much. Sometimes I have to capture people jumping in the air. Applause, applause. or throwing their instrument,
What the?
or crowd surfing,
Look at that guy. Wow.
or doing backflips. So that is why gear is important for me, but it doesn't matter most of the time. Bottom line is, the more professional you get, the better the gear you will need. But getting better gear does not make you more professional. So focus how you can improve on a day-to-day basis and just work on that one day at a time. So tackle this with a growth mindset and don't worry about where you're at right now. Just focus on moving forward and enjoying the process. And if you have any questions, I'm here to help. We're all rooting for you. So just keep crushing it. That's all that matters. And once you start shooting, don't stop. Just keep shooting. I'm Adam Elmakias. Have a good one. Thank you so much for joining me. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you next time. Peace.